Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. We have Peter Armstrong with us today. Peter is a founder at Leanpub that is, and Ruboss. Ruboss is a boutique consulting that is bootstrapping Leanpub. He's based in Victoria, Canada. I'm in Oaxaca, Mexico. It's also the creator of Markua. So you can check out markua.com. It's a markdown for books. He's the author of various books as well, which we may talk about today. And this podcast is brought to you by bookridegpt.com, talking about books. Bookridegpt takes your LinkedIn post or any CSV content that you feed it and comes up with a Kindle book on the other end with AI. So you can go to bookridegpt.com. The first credit is on me. Peter, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Sure, thanks for having me. So I'm founder at Leanpub. I've been doing that a long time. We launched in 2010, so we're 15 years old now. Um, yeah, and besides that, I've in the past life I was the author of a couple of computer programming books. And yeah, we're just bootstrapping Leanpub and trying to make the best way in the world for authors to write, publish, and sell in progress and completed online books and courses.
Right. So you must have heard of Andrew Wilkinson. She's also in Victoria, I think, and
Yeah.
he's pretty obsessed about vibe coding, right? And so am I, and I love his work, what he's doing. Saw you drink some fancy coffee. I think he's a CEO and founder of AeroPress as well. What have you seen as of late in coding and the revolution that's happening amongst founders, in which like people start to vibe code. It's like non-technical people that become technical, quote unquote, or full stack and can build as fast as ever.
So I think it's fantastic that more people are trying to code. Like either with like with vibe coding or like using that as a starting point or, whatever. I mean, my background is I have a computer science degree, like, you know, I graduated in the 90s. So I've been a developer for a long time. I think it's wonderful. Anything that lowers the barrier to entry for developers is great. I mean, basically, like, I think of vibe coding and the AI tools kind of like if you were in the construction industry and you were busy like hammering nails on a roof and then someone showed up with a nail gun, you wouldn't be like, oh no, this is wrecking my job. No, it's horrible. You'd be like, wow, I can just like shingle a roof way faster. But the value, of shingling the roof is unchanged. So this is maybe more productive and it's better. Like it's just a tool. Like it's just an amazing tool. But knowing what to do and how to use it, doesn't get devalued. It's leverage. It gets more valued. So yeah, I think it's fantastic.
And if we take folks like myself and Andrew, that we've been mostly in sales, CEO and founder role, non-technical, which includes marketing, selling, raising capital, and so forth. I think a big revolution is that we've been always seeking software solutions to fix our problems, right? And that process has always been a bit clunky. Where do you find these softwares, right? Product hunt. Now, GPT arrived 2 years ago, so it's like asking ChatGPT what is the best software to fix my solution. Even that is imperfect. The thing that I'm seeing in myself nowadays is that, like, I have this problem. Zapier can't fix it. This app
Mm.
cannot fix it. Fuck it. I'm just gonna code it and vibe code it with a simple Chrome extension that I can put up together in like 5 to 10 minutes. So it's sort of cannibalizing money from these other solutions. What other side effects are you seeing from this vibe coding revolution that we're going through right now?
Um, I'm not really sure yet. I think it's too early. Like I think uh for example, for my own experience, I've like my like the most vibe coding things I've ever done were like it's late. I've done all the useful things my brain can do in a day, but I still want to get something done. It's great at like writing a small script. Like for example, it's like, oh, I want a script that takes this down, outputs this in this format. I get a CSV, output it, look at this, do that, blah blah. I know it's like, oh, this is be like 50 to 200 lines of code. I I've done this a million times. I could do it again, or I could just explain what I want and then it's done. And it's like, you could be like, it doesn't work. Here's the error. Boom. A couple loops through the process, and it works great. So like, for me, that's where I've sort of stopped. I haven't been like I haven't gone and like sat down and like tried to like build a full game or build a, you know, like I'm pretty much like a solo tasker. Like I work on Leanpub, and you know, so I'm not looking to go create 10 new apps. If I was say like in the early startup phase, I'd be like, oh, interesting. I could maybe just throw together something completely like, you know, getting the first version of something to test product market fit. I think like vibe coding is a huge benefit to people there. I think I've, you know, I read something like, and I'm sure you read it too, something like 95% of the people in YC were using AI to help code. And so they should. And I mean, I use, you know, I encourage all our developers to use AI to help them code as well in whatever way that makes the most sense for them. Um, but like in it, we're not trying to sort of vibe code a full application to ship. Like we're not shipping a whole bunch of new applications. We're building one product essentially, right? So
Right, because it's not there yet security wise. It's pretty unsafe. Most of the apps that you'll create, and it depends which app specifically. But just to develop on my last idea, I could certainly see myself in the future just subscribing to one app that is ChatGPT and having it build a full app ecosystem around me that wouldn't necessarily require me to get a SaaS subscription from these other tools and maybe just pay for their APIs and per usage. What do you think about that?
okay, so here, think about it this way. 3D printing's been around for a long time, right? Or reasonably enough. But like your headphones were made in a factory, your shirt was made in a factory, right? Like I think like building a custom app is like 3D printing yourself a pair of shoes. Like vibe coding it. Like it's way like, for example, if I was gonna go make, if you told me, Peter, go make some shoes, like I wouldn't be back to this podcast for a long time, right? But like if I had a 3D printer and I could just say, okay, well, scan my foot or something and make some shoes, then like, you know, it would be a lot better than me trying to make the shoes. But even better than me going and 3D printing a pair of shoes is me going and buying a pair of shoes that fits my foot. And it's like, yeah, everybody's a unique snowflake, but no, they're not. Like I have a certain size of foot, billions of, well, hundreds of millions of other people have the exact same feet. I mean, it's actually kind of funny because I have one of my feet is like a size bigger than the other. So it's kind of actually it's a better metaphor than I thought, because ideally I could buy like a size 12 right shoe and a size 11 left shoe, right? But I still am not going to go 3D. It still wouldn't, I think, economically make sense for me to go 3D print two shoes. It would still be better off economically to go buy two different pairs of shoes and like donate the other, you know, odd ones in case anyone has a bigger left foot, right? And so like I know there's lots of, I think like, for example, B2B SaaS apps, like coming back out of the metaphor, B2B SaaS apps are so profitable that like you see VCs tweeting about like, oh, wouldn't it be great if I could just like vibe code or whatever, like a Slack competitor. But it's like, sure. I mean, or else you could just use a Slack competitor. Like I know that like there's some Signals or Basecamp, they have their Slack, you know, their competitor Slack, like you know, one of those once products, right? And so like anything that like anything you're paying a ton of money for, if you're a large organization, that you could replace with an in-house app, there's a sort of cost benefit analysis of doing that. The vibe coding, what that changes is it means that the cost to shipping like a first MVP version of something goes way down. And so like it means that, hey, do you want a minimum viable product of like an app that is highly specific to your thing, that's internal, say behind a firewall, so you don't have to worry about like attack vectors and whatever, then like cost goes down. So I think so. Andrew Wilkinson's extremely smart. Like he's in Victoria. He's like, you know, probably the most successful person out of Victoria. And I think he knows more about like AI and like in terms of and the sort of ecosystem of what's going on than I do. So if I was like looking for one person based in Victoria to listen to, I think he'd be the person. Um, I sort of try to scope limit just to like how does this affect Leanpub? And for me, it's like I think it's great because more people want to learn technology unless they're scared. Oh no, AI is going to take all the jobs. That's kind of like if you're a construction worker worried about nail guns or a lumberjack worried about chainsaws. Like it's just no, you have better tools. And so like I think it's wonderful. I think anything that makes it easier to build things is wonderful, and that's kind of what Leanpub was created as a way to help authors build books, right? Type in plain text, click a button, the book exists. And if you think about it, if you, I mean, I'm not sure how familiar you are with like the traditional book process, but
I am
it's
quite familiar with it. Yes.
right. So you wouldn't, if you think how many times could you publish a book in a month? How many like iterations? Maybe two, three,
Yeah.
right?
At most.
At most. But you can publish 10 times in a day on Leanpub or 20 or whatever. You can click a button, book exists. You can even, if you're a nerd, you can even set up a post commit hook on GitHub to automatically publish your book whenever you like push changes. So like, we built this tool chain, which makes it, which is like which makes Leanpub be like a magical typewriter for any author, like technical, non-technical, doesn't matter. Just type words, button click, book exists. And so it's like, you know, people might think, oh, but Leanpub hates typesetting. It's like, well, no, but we think that you should be able to publish your book without going through all the garbage that you have to do normally to, be able to, like, we're called Leanpub, right? Like, allow people to iterate quickly because you have these lighter weight tools and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, like a Google Docs, sort of. Ideally, if I would edit a Google Docs live, it would go live on Kindle, let's say.
Sure.
Just a couple of follow-ups before I hit on the last book point, because that's a synergy that we have here. Yeah, I don't think AI is another tool. I think it's right now it's a tool, right? It's an assistant, but this year it's becoming agentic, and that's where we're gonna see it. Like we're gonna erase the concept of it being a tool, and it's literally like another head that is better than a human. It's 10,000 times better, and I think that's where we're gonna see like jobs disappear. I mean, we're gonna see like humans hold on to the human factor. We're also gonna see legislations stopping that progress, but we know that the best business peoples, in reality, they don't give much shits about humans. They give shits about profits, right? And we're gonna see like this pop up. Then the market's gonna adapt, and that's where I think a bunch of jobs are gonna being slashed. And the last point that I
Well, I
was,
think the best
yeah,
business people actually do give lots of shits about humans. Like, think about, like, say, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, like,
Steve Jobs was
like,
an asshole. Yeah, and
yeah.
Musk
And so, but
too.
no, but the thing is, he was an asshole to his employees, but in the service of making really great products for his customers. Same thing with Elon. Like, it would be like a hard ass toward having high standards for employees. But if you actually give, like, it's like there's like shallow shits and deep shits in terms of giving a shit toward humans. Like, it's like if you have deep virtue and you want to like make um this is like reminiscent of a thing from the Three Kingdoms series, like of like TV series, where like Leo Bay is like starts to be like having these hard ass rules in order to enforce to have a better outcome. But like, that's a giant tangent. But anyway, so the point is, if you care about people and you want to do something that improves a lot of people's lives, it can't just all be like all fun and games along the way, because then you just make mediocre garbage and you won't improve anyone's life and do anything meaningful. So I
Right.
think people confuse cause and effect there.
Yes, but I interviewed 2,500 CEOs and founders over the years, and I can tell you that like it's front end bullshit, caring about their employees, right? They just want productivity, they just want money in the end. If you dig deep down into humans, maybe 1% care truly about humanity. And Elon is not one of them, by the way. Like that's a total farce. You know, you acquired Twitter for democracy, then turned it into a data harvesting machine for AI, and I think Elon's full of shit. Sam Altman, though, I do think he cares about human and the OpenAI team, the structure that they were built on. I do think that they care. Now, will they succeed? Are they still capitalists? Yes, they are. I mean, Sam, he was got near Trump at the inauguration, right, and playing all the I support you type of card. So I think everyone will sort of bend for money, and I think that's going to slash most of the job market. And then a good question would be like, what happens once you're very rich, but like 80% of the planet is poor? I don't think that's security, right? I think the market would be effed. So for people that only have money in mind, if they don't have no customers to buy because everyone is jobless, then what's the point, right?
Well, hold on. That's a lot to unpack there.
Yes.
Starting back at the beginning, say with uh, the idea that everyone's going to lose their jobs in a year because of generative AI. I think what will happen is you'll be able to accomplish a lot more. So I think of it like, in my ideal world, my team each has a bunch of AI agents and assistants and everything that they're using to make themselves perform better. But the thing is, with a business, you hire, like, if you're, let's say you're being like stupid greedy. Stupid greedy would be like, hey, how many employees can I fire so I can have as few people as possible, right? Smart greedy would be, okay, I want to have as many employees as possible as I can afford, and I want them to be as productive as possible so that we can make the best products possible for the largest number of people possible. Like, I have years of backlog of stuff that I want to build for Leanpub authors and Leanpub readers, but Leanpub doesn't throw off enough revenue for me to build everything I want fast enough. And so it's like, it's frustrating because you're like, okay, I want to do all these things. I've got, you know, tons of stuff in our shortcut board of like, these are things that are coming later. We've been working on this next version, V3, for a long time. It'll be shipping later this year. And I'm just super excited about that. But it's like, if I could have paid money, like if I can pay like, you know, 20, 50, whatever bucks a month per person for my employees and myself to have AI assistants, my role is not going to be saying, hey, how many employees can you guys get rid of? It's more like, wow, can one of my employees have function like a twice the productivity? Well, that's great. I just doubled my team. And it's like, I personally would spend, like, I spend every penny I can on hiring the best people I can to make Leanpub as good as it can be for our authors and for our readers.
Right.
I'm not looking to, like, you know, it's like I jokingly call it like my vow of poverty. Like, I'm looking to get as many people as I can to make Leanpub as good as I can. And if what that means is, if AI makes, if every person, like, say it's like Jensen Huang, he has like his team of, like, he says he has a whole bunch of agents, and also he has like 60 direct reports, right? And so you have Jensen with his 60 direct reports, and also with all his AI agents. Well, those are also just direct reports. They just don't cost as much. But I mean, do you think it matters to him? Right? Do you think Jensen, it matters? The only limiting factor for Jensen Huang is Jensen Huang's brain and his sleep schedule, right? And so it's like, and so if that's, no, but think about it. If that world is available to everyone, right? Wow, then one of my employees can have like 30 direct reports that only cost Leanpub $100 a month. That'd be amazing.
Yes. Okay. A couple of comments there. I think your employees, your best ones, right, that have been with you for years, I don't think you would let them go, even in an agentic world, right? Because right now they have assistants, and that's totally different from agents. Agents, you would have a choice between a human that is broad, has a weird CV. You know that you need to test like 5 or 10 to get one good. You're unsure, and you would have the agent that would be guaranteed 200% plus ROI. All you need is to drop money into it, and it would perform in your business. So that's the choice we would have in a couple of quarters from now. It's totally different game. I think you would keep your current employees as trust nodes, right? Because you trust them, you know how they perform and so forth, and they could have their own agents under them. And eventually it would only make sense that they would have equity in your company. I think the future is fully freelancer. But I think, yeah, the choice would not be like, oh, humans vs other humans. And you know how hard it is to get like high performers and an A+ player. Jensen can afford this, but you and I, as smaller business owners, it's very hard to get these top players. Think in the future there would be like guaranteed ROI with agents that you would click, click, click. They would immediately start and almost immediately crunch your task and yield ROI. And you could get that money to invest more in that behemoth of an agentic company. If you check like all latest YC companies, I think like 80% of them are agentic. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, no, I'm super, again, my big challenge is, like, I just went through a process of like interviewing dozens of co-op students through like from 2 universities in BC, and it's exhausting. It was exhausting doing the hiring process, but like, I'm super excited, for example, like for our summer of these co-op students. Like, I'm looking to like find, and what I'm trying to say is, the reason I'm bringing this up is, some people are like, oh, doom and gloom for entry level, blah blah blah, right? And so, like, you know, if I was, say, graduating from law school, I'd be concerned, because lots of what, say, like entry level lawyers do, well, there's 2 ways to look at it. One is I'd be concerned. The other way is I'd look at, hey, how could I become an entrepreneur and use AI to go do what, blah 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 blah, right? So like there's but just speaking only to myself, I think that AI and agents have huge potential benefits, both for people like myself who've got decades of experience and are looking just to grow their business, but also for the youngsters just starting out. If you're a co-op student, I think one thing that the universities should do a bit better is have some classes where they just encourage, it's like open season, you can use AI to do whatever you want, instead of this sort of like policy of like, you're not allowed to use AI and we're going to police you and try to prevent you. Because it'd be really interesting, because like I mean, I get that you need to learn the fundamentals. It's like, I mean, I also believe, for example, you should learn math without a calculator, let alone AI, right? But there should be like learning how to use AI tools to accomplish the best result is a different skill that is a complementary skill from like the skills you learn, say, in a CS degree right now. And so like, but bringing back to the point, if you're young and you have all the neuroplasticity and energy and everything else, and you can multitask and you can just focus on the one thing for a long time, and you can learn how to like, if you're willing to go into this, I think that like the gap from like, hey, I'm a junior like co-op student to like I'm a really productive person doing lots of great things, that can get compressed like a lot.
Hell
and
yeah.
and so I think that like it's like, the amount now the negative, there's positives and negatives to everything. Obviously one of the negatives is like, you learn something, it's obsolete a lot faster now than it was, right? When I was learning, I remember like taking a book on Java Swing to like 24 Hour Fitness in like Silicon Valley, and like just trying to like literally reading a paper book, right? And it's like now it's like, I mean, anyway, like you get what I'm saying, right? Like the half-life of how long the information is, but like the point is you can level up and become
Oh
so
yeah.
good so fast.
Yes. Hell yeah. How did I learn Spanish? Right, listening to my wife and
Right.
talking with her, and that's it. I didn't need to open a fucking book.
Mm-hmm,
And yeah, don't get me started on that, because I started COUni.com. It's a school for kids 7 years old and plus to start their business with AI. I think
mm-hmm.
that's the ultimate solution if they want to have a chance, because at the rate that the institutions, quote unquote, are going, they're never going to have a fucking chance. Like, really, they're 0% chance of success. And I mean, my background, just so you know, like I managed 2,000 employees over the last 10 years, and I fired all my team probably 3 years ago to replace them with AI. So that's where I come from. And obviously, there's some bias in there, but yeah, I think there's two ingredients here. It's entrepreneurship. I think the future is fully entrepreneurial. There's no other chance, or the other side of the coin will be like UBI maintained, sort of. And second, yes, using AIs, because like you said, it's a different skill set. Like I can tell you that since I've been using AIs, I've been thinking less about the output, but I've been thinking way more about the prompt and understanding how AI works and the output, right, and how to correct it. And yeah, sort of coding as well, the infrastructure. It's like you're directing an orchestra. And I could develop my creativity way more. So step in way more into human types of traits and skills. And I think that's what future gens need. They need to, and they can have an advantage, like, because you mentioned neuroplasticity. I think that's a huge advantage. And as kids, we tend to lose our creativity in this serious work world. It's pretty terrible, right? And 9 to 5 and all of that. It's a struggle also to find a job and to make your first buck. But I think, and that's related to the vibe coding type of thing point that I forgot to mention, is like literally nowadays, this guy the other day built an Airbnb in 1 hour. Is it a full in Airbnb with 100% feature? No, it's probably 80 to 90% there, but it's pretty incredible to think that Airbnb took billions and billions of dollars and thousands of employees to have a product. Well, you can literally copy paste improve it, and you can
No,
get that speed advantage.
but that's actually the point, is that what you like, the thing that launched didn't take billions of dollars and thousands of employees. It took like a handful of people in a, living like in a room, in a apartment, right? Like, the thing you need to like, launching and getting traction isn't like, it's not something, okay, well, here's what I'm really getting at. If you're going to go, let's say you're going to go compete with Airbnb, it doesn't matter whether it takes you an hour or it takes you 2 months, right? Like
Well,
say
it
like
does.
no,
It
it
saves
doesn't.
you like millions in MVP, and you already know what the market wants. I think product market fit is so complicated to know like what people want. And if you can build an amazing product, start commercializing it and getting feedback quick and selling it quick.
Sure. No. I was being really specific. Sorry. I'm what I meant was if you're building a new thing, being able to launch really fast and iterate and get feedback from customers is super important, right? And if you can launch in a week instead of launching in 2 months, then you get like 7 more weeks of learning. That's fantastic. I was making a very cynical point. What I was trying to say was if I'm going to go say, I'm going to go build an Airbnb clone and compete with Airbnb, then okay, you've got a really clear defined set of requirements. Just copy Airbnb and but in German or that's not like copy Airbnb but for
Rocket
the
ship
Chinese market
style.
or whatever, right? Like you know what I mean, right? So like if you were saying, okay, I'm going to go copy a well-established thing where all the uncertainty is and all the learning is already done, then the only way you're going to possibly compete with them is if you raise a ton of money. And so you know what I mean, right? Like if you're going to go like, well,
Depends. But yes, generally speaking, yes.
you know what I'm, yes, or else you can just be the low cost entrant and yada yada. But what I meant was like being able to launch an MVP really quickly is more important, I think, when you don't know the requirements than when you do.
I
You get
still
to iterate.
think like new generations can get like almost an immediate advantage over others. Obviously, there's experience, but what if we just compress like all that knowledge and what it takes into a couple of lines? Like for example, I've been doing cold email for the last 5 years, and every day I'm still learning, and I'm still getting exponentially better nowadays with AIs. Technically, a kid could just take that prompt, and I'm pretty much of an open source guy, so I make all of this public, and they could start right now today with my exact formula and get results from day one. Well, it took me like literally 5 years to get there. So, and also I think they have the beginner's mind advantage, right? So they're more open, they're less closed and more innocent, right? They ask the right questions and they don't assume stuff. So I still think it can be huge. And with venture capital, I also think this is going to potentially change. I think generally, yes, you need money, especially to pay all these agents. But yeah, it's a very good point. Peter, we're already on time. I'm seeing that. Where can people find out more about you and your company?
So leanpub.com. And in terms of me, just on X at Peter Armstrong.
I was Peter Armstrong and Charles
Yeah.
Cormier.